What do I tackle first? Should I tackle building my product first? Or should I tackle building a legal entity first? Getting my first customer first? Like, what do I do? There is immense power in I do not know, because every I do not know became a lesson that shaped my journey. When to start, how to start, where to start. If you ask this question to 100 different entrepreneurs, they'll give you 100 different answers. There's no right answer. It's what's right for you, because this is your journey. I am Sudeshna Sen. I am the founder and CEO of Pioneer, which is a network for other women founders and entrepreneurs, helping them grow and thrive. And what I want to talk to you about is really about my journey to entrepreneurship and what it took me to get here. And it's going to be an honest truth about things I learned, the struggles I've had, be it in my corporate journey, which ultimately led me here, or in my entrepreneurship journey. And I hope that what I share is something that you can learn, take something from as you embark on your own journeys, be it in the corporate side or entrepreneurship. So with that, let's get started. So here's the real story behind my leap to entrepreneurship. So quick timeline. So I started in my teens wanting to be an engineer. And no surprise there, my father was an engineer. My aunts and uncles are engineers. My father's friends are engineers. So of course I have to be an engineer. Because if I'm not an engineer, then I'm a disgrace to the family. So yes, I became an engineer because that's what I was told and that's what I grew up with. I did my bachelor's, I did my master's, I did my PhD, all in engineering, specializing in econometrics. And then landed my first gig in an engineering company as a market research analyst. So I was one of, hundreds, analyzing the marketing trends, using my econometric skills to work, and on my way in my corporate career. And here is where I followed the book, if you will. I followed the career framework that the corporates give you. So I went from an analyst to a manager to a director and went on to become a VP, led several business units in marketing, in sales, B2B, health, and I've done it a lot of different business units. But really what you see here is I followed the book. I followed what was told to me. I followed people around me. I never really stopped to ask, is this what I want? I just followed what everyone else is doing because my friends, my peers, my colleagues, all of them were on this corporate ladder and I needed to be there as well. And then I ended up being in a C-level role, an EVP level role. And you know what? I'm like, yes, I'm checking all the boxes. I am following the book. And then while I was doing all of that, an opportunity came my way to be an advisor on a startup. I'm like, this sounds interesting. I'm like, why can't I a little bit dabble in it? And I think that's the best decision I've ever made. And I dabbled into this. I started advising startups, investing in startups, sitting on boards of startups. So in some respects, I started straddling two paths. One is the corporate path, one is the startup path. And then after several years, I went on to become an entrepreneur. And I'll give you more about what you don't see in a bit. So if you look at the linear path that you see on paper is that, yes, I studied, I did my higher studies. Yes, I then joined corporate, I climbed the corporate ladder. And yes, I supported startups and ended up building a startup. But what you don't see is what in red, is what I went through. How did I end up here? How did I end up being an entrepreneur? So if I look back at my last 6-7 years, what you don't see is that after I landed my EVP role, I was actually planning to, again, go by the corporate books and be a CMO, a Chief Marketing Officer, because that's what you do. And then after CMO, you become a CEO because that's what you do. That's what all my friends are doing. In fact, I remember building my resume for CMO for 2 years. I'm not kidding, 2 years. I'm sitting and building this resume, and I honestly think I should frame it. This is still not built. So I was building this resume because in my heart, I knew this is not what I want to do, but this is what everyone else is doing, and therefore, I need to do this. And since my heart wasn't in it, since I felt that I knew too much, and I was burdened by all of that knowledge, and I felt I'm not ready, I need to do a little bit more before I can apply to a CMO role, I felt stuck. I felt unhappy. What you also don't see is that after trying for CMO, I'm like, why CMO? I'm going to be a CEO. 6 months, I worked on the resume for that, to at least talk to people. That's one extra step I took. And then I realized, do I really want to be a CEO? Who does CEO report to? CEO reports to the board. Boards have what? Boards have investors. So I want to be an investor. So and then I'm like, I want to be a VC now. So I then joined VC Lab. I started building my first micro fund, raising my first fund, dabbled in VC, and I didn't quite like it there. So finally, after a lot of each step that I took in the last 6-7 years, it was a step in which I learned something. I took an action, I learned something, and finally getting to a place where I felt at home, which is building my own company. So that's what I wanted to share, that what you don't see is where all the magic is happening. It's the career paths are very non-linear. They look linear on LinkedIn, they look linear on resumes, but they rarely are. And so what I want to walk you through is the truth behind my story. And this is the unvarnished truth, because I really want you to understand that, you know what, you see these picture perfect stories maybe or in the news, in LinkedIn, that how incredible their career paths have been, and you think how successful they are. But I would say, if hopefully my story will shed some light into the fact that you might look successful from outside, but there is a lot going on inside, which then shapes you as a person and then shapes you where you want to be. And for me, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So if I look back at my corporate career, my 20 years, I felt that I was living the dream. I believed in it. I have the title, I have the power, I have the everything that comes with it. But really the struggle that I was facing is I was drained mentally and physically. I was traveling every week. At times I was traveling to 2-3 cities within the same week. So think about it. I'm traveling every week. I'm working weekends. I am always on the go. My time is not my own. My calendar is owned by the company that I work for. And I am a mom. I have 2 kids. They're 9 and 12 right now, 2 boys, but they were very little then. So I'm constantly traveling. I have no time forget about time for myself. I have no time for my family. And I was mentally drained, physically drained. And if I look back now and think about what was I thinking, really? I forgot to dream. Because I was just taking it one day at a time, or more like 1 hour at a time, meeting after meeting, from 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock minimum every day in the morning. That was my schedule. Then I believed really that I'm unstoppable. You know what, I can do it all. I have a corporate gig, I'm advising, I'm sitting on these panels, and I'm everywhere. But really, if I think deeply, I was very overwhelmed. And in some respects, now that I think of it, I was stuck, because I was stuck in this cycle. I was stuck in this cycle, same routine every day. And I needed to get out of it, and I really wasn't thinking how to get out of it. So this is the reality that was me. Then I was a thought leader. I believed I was a thought leader. You know what? I know lead teams. I have led so many different verticals. I know sales. I know marketing. I know how to lead businesses. But really, if I think about it, I was crushed. I felt crushed by how little I know, because I always had this sort of inner voice telling me you don't know enough. How little you know, because if you want to be a CEO, you would need to know X, Y, Z that I don't have the experience for. So in some respects, I felt that I knew so little, and I mistook knowledge for success. And knowledge, it sits in your head. Is it really success? That's a big question. So that's, when I look back, I felt that was a turning point for me as well. Then indispensable. I felt indispensable that, you know what, I help clients from Fortune 10 to Fortune 500. They know me, they need me, and of course I was very good at my job. But that does not mean that I wasn't afraid from within. I was always afraid of losing it all, because at the end of the day, yes, I was C-level, but I was one of many at that level as well. So I was invisible, but I felt, and I had to try so hard to make myself visible. But still, it's like constantly trying to make yourself visible in this huge organization of almost 100,000 employees. And finally, I thought I was a self-aware leader. I thought I knew what I wanted. Yes, this is my plan. This is where I see myself. This is where I'm heading to. But I really felt like an imposter. I felt like that. I really don't know what I want. I think I do, but is it really what I want? So I felt I really didn't know myself. So the struggles that you see here, they are real. And it's not just me. I think if you ask, most people in corporate might be facing a kind of a mix of this. And this is when my journey started of deep reflection and finally getting me to my core guiding principles, as I call them, which I think apply whether you want to be in the corporate side or entrepreneurship side. But I really want to double down here on how my journey got me to these principles that I want to dive a little bit deeper into with all of you. So really it starts with asking very basic questions. I think you ask them yourself as well. Like, why am I doing this? What does this entail? Think about if you want to apply for say an internship. Your why is, I want to apply for an internship in a startup because I want to be a startup founder one day. And then you double down into the what. What will this internship entail? What do I need to do here? Maybe run reports, maybe process some data, maybe present in front of clients. And then you get into the how do I get it done? And then you get into the who. Okay, who do I need to essentially bring along with me? Who is in my team who will help me get it done? And then you get to the when. When do I need to do what? Very basic. I think all of you must be doing this. What's different is that these questions or the responses to these questions they vary as you get more experience. The way I answered these questions when I was early on in my career is very different the way I ask these questions now, 20 years into my career. And these questions actually led to the unlocks for me, which I'm calling the core guiding principles, starting with the why. And I'll dive into each of these 5 principles in this deck. So starting with the why am I doing this? I questioned, as I said, in the beginning, in my as a teenager, my why was very surface level. I want to be an engineer because my father asked me to be an engineer, because everyone else is an engineer. Very surface level why. In my corporate job, yes, I need to get up step by step because that's what everyone else is doing, and therefore, that's what the company says I should be doing, and therefore, I am doing it. But was it really my why? What do I want? And what do you want? So I think the first thing that, as I would say a core guiding principle is knowing your why. What do you want? What makes you tick? What makes you happy? What makes you fulfilled? And I'll go over this in detail. Next is the what. Now, once you know what you want, and once you know why you want to be what you want to be, then you dig into the what. Okay, now that I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to build this fantastic network for women founders and entrepreneurs. What does that entail? There's a lot of sides to the business side, right? You have to build a legal entity, sales, marketing, product, you name it. It's like everything. There's so many whats. And this is where the insight is, I can either spend my life learning about each what and then taking action. Because you know what? I don't know how to handle this what. So what do? You start learning about it. Because you want to know how to get to that, how to answer that what. But what I've learned from my life, my corporate experience and entrepreneurship is that stay with the I do not know. There's huge power in I do not know. Because when you do not know, you're curious to know. Stay with the question, because we are in this sort of rat race trying to get to an answer. And there is no right answer. So I'll get into how do you stay with I do not know and why it's important. Now moving to how. This is a very critical piece. As I said, I wanted to be a CMO. Guess what? I spent 2 years just working on my resume. So all I did, if I think about it, is I thought and thought, right? I thought about it. I had imaginary goals, imaginary milestones. I think I became a CMO in my head for 2 years, right? Did nothing. So the insight here is think less, do more. And I'll dive into this concept because I think that we as humans spend too much time thinking. I'm not saying stop thinking. Think, but be very intentional and act more, because with every action comes insight. And that's very important in entrepreneurship. Finally, who? Like, who is very critical. Who, in entrepreneurship especially, you have to know that you're not alone. There are a lot of people that can help you, support you on this journey. So I'll talk to you about how do you think about your network? How do you nurture your network? How do you build the right network to help you get there? If I look back, all my 20 years of my career and then entrepreneurship has happened because of the network that I've built very intentionally. And then finally, when? This is a very critical question. When do I do? What's the tendency of humans? Do it now. I have to do it now because I have to prove it to everyone that I can do it, that I am it. But in entrepreneurship, especially in the early days, it's all about going slow to go fast. You rush it, you're going to miss things. And I'll talk a little bit about that. So this is my core principles. And today in my talk, I want to dive a little bit deeper into each of these and love to make it interactive. So feel free to ask me questions as I go. So finding your why, I think this is the most important one. Because, so going back to my story and how I found my why, is my experiences shaped me. The ups and downs, in fact, I would say my downs, the lows that I've had made me pause, made me think. In fact, the highs did not make me think. I was too much onto the next high. Let me get to the next level. So I think that all the lows, the setbacks, my experiences shaped me, gave me a lot to self-reflect. So I did a lot of deep soul searching on what I truly wanted, what made me happy, what's the kind of life I want to build, why am I not happy despite everything that I have, like really asking tough questions along the journey. So I found my why essentially through a lot of curiosity along the way. And my insight was through courage, through clarity, you have a better understanding of your why. Now, before I get into how you can find your why, I want to double down on why is this important? Why is this important in entrepreneurship especially? In entrepreneurship, more than I would say in corporate, there are high highs and low lows, essentially big wins, hard setbacks. As I said, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. It's very common, like one entrepreneur, one friend I know, she got a verbal commitment from an investor of 1 million ticket size. She's through the roof. And then what? Complete silence from the investor. So from a high to a low, she has no idea what happened. So this is very common. Another thing that I would say very common is that which happened to me as well. I thought I got an amazing client. I really wanted to work with her. And then, you know what? It didn't work out. So things like this happen in entrepreneurship. You have a very interested customer, a very interested investor. You have an amazing product. Day one, day two, the product doesn't work. It breaks. So there are big wins. There are huge setbacks. How do you spring back from these setbacks? How do you keep going? The common thread to keep going is your why. Why are you doing this? Second is uncertainty. Like uncertainty is the only constant in entrepreneurship. It's a very exciting journey, and I love the journey as an entrepreneur because I'm learning. It's exciting. I do not know what tomorrow will bring me, but there is that fear as well. I don't have that fear anymore, but I know that the uncertainty can either give you excitement or it can give you fear. So given that uncertainty is the only constant, how do you move forward? Because we as humans, we want to know. We want to know, what will this work? Will my startup be successful? Will I be successful? So uncertainty is one that you need to manage. And the third one is the buck stops with you. So you are the founder. You're responsible for everything. If you mess up your investor meeting, it's on you. If your customer is not happy with your product, it's on you. You can't shift the blame to your team. If your product just breaks down, it's not on your product lead, it's on you. So the buck stops with you. It's a huge amount of responsibility that you have to take on as an entrepreneur. You're responsible for all of it. So the question then becomes, when you are facing these setbacks, when uncertainty is the name of the game, when the buck stops with you, what keeps you going? It's your why. And why is your compass. So I do want to so there are two ways to get to the why. One is, as I showed in the beginning for me, it was through my experiences. But for those of you who are just starting on your journey, this is a framework that I really like, the Ikigai framework. This is a Japanese concept where Ikigai really means what is your reason to be? Basically, why do you do what you do? And the way you get to your Ikigai is that you think about what you love. I love serving. I love helping people. I love supporting people. And you think about what you're good at. For me, I'm good at numbers. I'm good at connecting people. So you think about what makes you tick. Then you think about what, can you get paid for? Like, think about your skills. For me, and if I think back of my skills, I've built businesses. So that's what I can get paid for. I know how to build businesses. I know how to build startups. And finally, what do you think the world needs? For me, I think, given that I'm a woman entrepreneur, I think the world needs more women entrepreneurs. So the way I got to my ikigai was more about, I want to build a company where I can support, I can help women entrepreneurs because the world needs more of them. We need to invest more in women entrepreneurs. I'm not saying not for men entrepreneurs, but I'm just in general. I need a better support system for these people, and I think I'm uniquely suited to do that because I have the experience and I have the passion and commitment to do it. So that's how I got to my why. I'd love for you to reflect on this for 2-3 minutes, and I'd love for at least a couple of you to tell me, high level, what is your why? You can use this framework or you can use an experience-based framework. So take 2 minutes. Again, no pressure, guys. This is no pressure. Even if it is, I want to be a soccer player, that's fine, right? What is your ikigai?
My ikigai is to be a polymath.
Nice. And why? Can you?
Yeah, I love writing and I love math, and that's what I'm good at, and I'm trying to use that.
I love it. I love it. Good one.
Hi, I'll be going as either marketing or banking. It's something I'm really good with math and numbers. I'm comfortable and I love being in the business area. Since I attended an economics conference when I was a freshman and sophomore year in college, got me into all this. That, maybe I can do this too because it's dealing with numbers, graphs, as well as banking and marketing. And I'm also taking a marketing class every semester, and that's something I would love to do. So.
That is fantastic. It's just a start. This is a framework. Again, I would say always think about what you're good at and what you love. Out of all of these things, think what you love is so deeply important. Like what makes you you? What makes you tick? What makes you happy? I put it in very simple words. I can't stress enough that this is something that is very easy to forget. So being in tune with yourself is very important. And one thing I'd say is that your why will change over time. Your why, today, if your why is to be, as you said, to be in business, tomorrow it could change. Think about me. I was in business. I got into entrepreneurship. And it's not just me. If you see kind of the career trajectory of many people, you will see why do they switch? How do they become from a scientist to an entrepreneur to a VC? It's because our whys keep changing. What makes us tick keeps changing. So it's very important to be in tune with yourself and keep asking the tough questions to yourself and reflecting on your wins as well as on your setbacks. Okay, now moving to the next one. This is one of the ones that I actually love, staying with I do not know. Now, as I said, curiosity fuels growth. Think about it. As a child, how curious we were. Think about your, say, nieces and nephews, little ones, how curious they are about everything. And then reflect on yourself. How curious are you? Are you as curious as them? If I look back at my career, I feel that I stopped being curious after a certain point, and that's when my unhappiness started. Because I was just doing more of the same, not being curious about what I wanted, curious to learn. So curiosity is essentially the driver for growth. And curiosity starts with I do not know. It starts with the question, not the answer. Just something to think about. So the journey of I do not know for me. When I started my startup, I've never built startups before. Yes, I've advised startups. Advising startups, sitting on boards of startups, investing in startups, very different from building your own startup. Because now, you know what? Your skin is in the game. You are responsible for everything. So I did not know where to start. So when I started about 1.5, 2 years back, where do I even start? What do I do first? Honestly, I do not know. The next is, how to start? So there is marketing, there is sales. I have to think about the product. I have to think about the product market fit. I have to think about, should I build a legal entity? Should I bootstrap? Should I raise capital? What the heck should I do? How do I go about it? So I did not know anything. Yes, I have a ton of experience and I have helped marketing, sales, business for these really big companies. But when it came to myself, and now I'm responsible for everything, I'm like, I didn't know where to start, how to start, and even when to start. What do I tackle first? Should I tackle building my product first? Or should I tackle building a legal entity first? Or should I even go there? Should I tackle getting my first customer first? What do I do? And given my life experiences, when I built my startup and when I had this question or this sort of response from myself, I do not know, I stayed with that. Because I realized that there is immense power in I do not know, because every I do not know became a lesson that shaped my journey. Because I do not know means it's a journey to an answer, to a question. This time, I did not want the answer. I wanted to stay with the question, because there is no right answer, guys. When to start, how to start, where to start. If you ask this question to 100 different entrepreneurs, they'll give you 100 different answers. Because there's no right answer. It's what's right for you. It's because this is your journey. You want it to be rewarding, right? So go with the flow. I do not know. So I'll give you some examples. The problem with I do not know is that the problem with rather staying in I do not know is the fear. So for me, I think when I got to my I do not know, I had gotten better at overcoming my fear, because I think I've been afraid enough in my corporate career. By the time I became an entrepreneur, I felt that I shed a lot of that through my experiences. But this is a fear I see in the entrepreneurs I work with. Immense fear of I do not know. And I'll give you some examples to make it real. Fear of, how do I build my MVP? I am a non-MVP, meaning minimal viable products. So the first thing that you build, like a little bit more than a prototype. Most of the founders are non-technical. See, they have a brilliant idea. Like, I have this idea that's going to change the world. That's going to solve for world hunger. I'm just kidding. But it's going to change the world. And I think that this idea will fly. It's going to be $1 billion company. Great. But I'm non-technical. I do not know how to build this. Should I build an app? Should I build a website? How do I even start? And they are so scared. They're so scared. So you are scared because you do not know how to build. And I see these entrepreneurs, they're frozen. Some of them are like, maybe I need to hire a CTO. Maybe I need to go to find a co-founder. Do you know how difficult it is to find a co-founder? Especially if you don't know them. It's like a marriage. It actually takes longer. You really have the dating period to find a co-founder, and then working with the co-founder, it takes years only to have a breakup. So it's not that easy. You think, you know what, I'm going to find a co-founder today. I'm going to get a CTO today. Not easy. But then your mind is wrapped around finding a co-founder. That's all you do. And you forget about your dream. You forget about building this company. Or you're so scared that, you know what, I can't find a co-founder. Let me just hire a dev shop and get them to build my MVP. I see founders spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. I spoke to a founder 2 weeks back. He spent over $100,000 already on his MVP before he knows if there is a market fit. He comes from the corporate side. But this is it, because you think that, you know what, I have such a brilliant idea, it's going to fly, it has to fly because it's my idea. And you're so scared to be left behind. You want to move fast, and guess what you do? You throw money at a dev shop, building something you have no idea there's a market need for. And this happens very often. It's not once in a lifetime. Most founders make this mistake. Another mistake I see founders make is they're scared that they are invisible. They do not know how to go to market. My product is invisible. I am invisible. I need to be visible. I need to raise brand awareness. What's the point of building all of this if nobody buys it? Think about it. So scared, the fear of being invisible. And guess what they do? Instead of saying, you know what, let me just think about it and take a step back. What do I need to do to be more visible? They're like, you know what, maybe I should be on Facebook, I should be on TikTok, I should be on Instagram. So what they do is either the founder takes on doing it all themselves. So now they're trying to do 4 and 5 channels themselves. They have zero idea what to do. They're overwhelmed. Or again, they start throwing money at a marketing agency, spending a lot of money, getting them to do something that, again, you don't even know whether there's a need for. Or they hire a marketing intern and they say, hey, marketing intern, you do it. No direction, because I don't have the time to figure it out. You figure it out, and it's their business. So again, what is driving this sort of action that doesn't make sense? It's the fear. So I really want you guys to think about it, internalize this, and think about your own journey, and think about if you are not making headway, what's the fear that's holding you back? What's the fear of that I do not know that's holding you back? Another example is another big one, how to raise capital. I thought of it myself in the beginning. Should I bootstrap? Should I raise capital? I thankfully came to the realization myself fast enough that I want to bootstrap, because I've been in this industry as an advisor long enough that I felt and tried the VC route as well. So I had a better understanding of it. But I see founders dealing with this day in and day out. How do I raise capital? Why will they invest in me? How do I show I'm going to be $1 billion business? They're so scared that instead of building the business, guess what they're doing? They're building a deck. A deck. How will deck help you build a business? So they spend hours and hours on this pitch deck, making it beautiful and pretty. What's the point of having this really perfect, really beautiful deck when it looks great on paper and there's nothing to show? Again, why are they doing this? But they're scared. If I don't raise capital, I might run out of cash 8 months from now. That's 8 months from now. Why do you have to worry right now? Yes, think about it, but don't obsess about it. Don't be so scared. So these are some examples of fears that are driving decisions. So my principle here is we need to stay with the I do not know, because you see there's a strong correlation between I do not know and fear. So I want to walk you through what I call 5 stages of I do not know and how they correlate with fear. Now the first stage is, you know what, I do not know. I'm scared. Therefore, I can't take any action because I'm so scared. It's like when I was looking to apply to a CMO level role. 2 years stuck on a stupid resume, right? So I was scared. I was scared because, is this the right thing to do? Why is it not making me happy? Do I know too much? Do I too less? I just was in my head questioning everything. And what happens? No action, very high fear. But then, you know what? You get past that to, you know what, I do not know, but let me start figuring it out. Let me start researching. I'm going to take a bunch of courses. I'm going to watch a few YouTube videos. I'm going to take a Coursera course. I'm going to start talking to people. So you start researching. That's a good first step. But think what's happening. Your fear is a little less. But what are you piling on? You're piling on a lot of knowledge sitting in your head. What's there to show for it? Nothing. So it's a lot of knowledge all in your head. What's knowledge? What's all this without action? What's the point of learning if you don't apply it? But at least it gets you a little bit in an area of a little less fear, because I'm doing something about it. I'm learning. The next stage I like to think about is I still do not know, but I learn by doing. So that's better. Now you're starting to act. Okay, I learned this stuff. Let me apply. Why? Like, for example, all of you are doing, I'm sure many of you are doing internships. Why? Internships is a very good way to learn the knowledge that's being imparted to you in these courses. So that is one step closer. Now you are acting on it. And every action is bringing a whole new insight that will help you go one step further. From here on, the next stage I like to say is I may never know. You get to a point that, you know what, I do not know, maybe I'll never know the whole picture, and that's fine. I'll test and learn and explore. For example, as an entrepreneur, I may never know what different channels and tactics and strategies will work. I have a framework. I'll keep testing and learning and unlearning, but I may never know, and that's okay. Because I'll keep testing different things out and see what sticks. So again, if you see, you're letting go a little bit of your fear with each of these steps to the final step, which is where I'd love for all of us to be, which is the place I am operating from right now, is that, you know what, I do not need to know. Yes, you don't need to know everything. Because if I look back, 10 years back, I felt that I needed to know everything. I have to know it, because how else can I be an expert if I don't know? Right now, my modum operandum is more, I'll trust the process and go with the flow. And that's where you need to be. Things happen in the world of entrepreneurship very fast. Market is shifting fast. Based on every feedback that you're getting from your customer, from the market, you need to pivot fast. You have to go with the flow. You can't, it's fully knowing that I may never know. I might never know the answer to the question, but I'll stick with the question, I'll go with the flow. So this is where I think that is very important as you are looking at your journeys. How do you stay with I do not know? So I'd love to kind of ask you this. I'd love for a couple of you to at least answer what you think. Ask yourself, and it doesn't have to be something in your career, it could be personal life. What's one decision I'm stressing over right now? And then think about, how am I trying to force an answer and why? Think about the fears that's causing you to not act on it. And then I would like you to reframe it in your mind and ask, and then tell me, what better question should I ask myself to get an answer? Who wants to go?
Hi, my name is Ijetta, and I recently graduated from Fordham with a degree in economics. And what I'm really stressing about right now is what to do next. So I'm considering graduate school, but then again, will that delay my entry to the industry, and how do I deal with that? How do I prepare myself better? So all that sort of stuff.
So what is one thing you can do differently? So that's a very good question. I think all of us have dealt with that. So I'd like to ask you, so you're dealing with what choices to make next in terms of your career, and basically what does that mean in terms of the impact of your decisions, right? So there's a lot of thinking. For you to move forward, what better questions can you ask yourself? What's holding you back to take a step forward?
What's best for me right now? I guess that's the main question, and I really want to learn more because I do think I do not know enough. But then again, do I learn more by going into an educational institution, or would industry give me that knowledge more?
Got it. So I'm going to say you might never know. Given that you might never know, how should you be thinking about this? The question more is, what question can you ask yourself to give yourself the grace that you will never know what's the right path forward? So given that, what should you be thinking of? How should you be acting next?
I'm not sure, you can help me out.
But these are good. So again, staying with the question, I would actually ask myself, why am I stressing out so much? Why do I need to know which path is the right path for me? Why not start with something, one of these three paths I've chosen, and see where it takes me? And one thing to know is that there's no path set in stone. You can always pivot. So I think it's more like assessing how much time perhaps you are spending in this mode of inertia, because you want an answer to your question before you want to move forward. Why not stay with I do not know and then go with the flow? Anyone else? Okay. Let me try someone else as an answer. You. Yes.
I am at a crossroads between leaving my job, which is not necessarily promised, or staying and facing being laid off because my office might close.
Okay, so your question,
I'm like in a weird crossroads between quitting my job, applying to other jobs that I may have to commit to, or staying with my current employer who might go under over the summer and not provide me a job once I return home in like a week and a half.
Got it. So you're at crossroads, you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Got it. And so what are you stressing about right now? Both?
So if I apply and I'm accepted to another law firm in my area, but I ultimately can't commit to it because I'm still employed at my previous employer, which may go under or may not. Assuming it doesn't, I have to then communicate with that employer who I may want to work with in the future that I know have applied, I know have been perhaps accepted, but I cannot work, which would really disenfranchise me in the future.
Got it. So let me ask you, what does your gut say? What do you truly want? Out of these two options, I'm sure one of them makes you happier. What is that?
I want to stay with my current employer because I get paid better and I do what I want to do. But if my boss fires me because she can't afford a paralegal, then back at square one. Yeah.
So the next question I'd ask you is, if you get fired, so if you lose this job, what does that open up new sort of horizons for you to explore other things?
Absolutely, but I'm constricted on time because I go back to school in August. And no firm in my hometown is going to want to hire a paralegal for 4 weeks.
Got it. So the question here then becomes that you will never know whether you are going to stay here or you will lose this job, but you have been thinking about it. So what I would suggest is that by obsessively thinking about these two options, it's not helping, is it? Because the decision does not lie with you, right? So think about what can you do differently, right? In the sense that if I were you, and I do not know what's going to happen in this job, right? I do not know. I can only do the best I can. And I do not know whether my boss will get to keep me or I might move on. And that's okay. It's okay that you do not know. So the question then becomes, given that I do not know, and given that there are some other horizons that are opening up for me, how can I spend my time more wisely? So I think more about thinking about, given that this is a situation that you're boxed in, there's nothing much you can do, think about what else can you potentially be exploring to make the best use of the time here as well as beyond. So again, reframe the question, because I feel at times we're stuck in these situations and some of these things are beyond our control. And when we keep thinking, why, I need this, I want this, I love this, but it's beyond our control, thinking more about it doesn't get us anywhere, does it? So I just want you to think about, given you're in a very good position, what other ways can you capitalize on the time that you have left with this company? Maybe network, maybe find other ways, as well as think of new horizons that you are considering, maybe are not considering, that could be a path for you. Okay. So again, hopefully you get the sense. What I'm trying to say is that there are situations where you frankly do not know, or you will never know because the decision doesn't even lie with you, as is in his case, lies with someone else. You can either obsess over it, but at the end of the day, you will never know why things happen the way they happen. But what you can do is to trust the process. The reason this is happening, there's something good here. Be curious to learn and find other ways in which you can capitalize your time, use it better. Okay, this gets me to the next one. Think less, do more. Action is everything. And it couldn't be truer for a startup world. So let me start with how much time an entrepreneur spends on what. And I would say this applies to all of you. All of us as humans, we are either in our past or we are in our future. So we're obsessing over things in our past, obsessing over, as an entrepreneur especially, if I think back, you're obsessing over or beating yourself over, and I don't want to go into all of this, but beating over the decisions you made. Right or wrong, you obsess over them. You think about the mistakes you made with your customers, with your investors, with the people you've hired, like so many mistakes, so many decisions. That's what you beat yourself up over. Why did I not do this right? Why didn't I think about it? Why didn't I test my pricing before putting it into the market? So even in your lives, you're beating yourself up over maybe past decisions that you made as you are trying to land a gig, land an internship. And then, so either we spend time in the past or we spend time in the future, stressing over things, planning things, over-planning things. I need a 5-year roadmap for being a $100 million company. Guess what? You spend 3 months building this nice, beautiful plan. It's just a plan. It's on paper. It means nothing. The bottom line is we spend way too much time planning, obsessing over what will happen. Will I be successful? Will my startup succeed? Even in your lives as students right now. Like, I'm sure you're obsessing over the next internship, the next course, my grades, will I get this job? Will I get this salary that I want for this job? Just think for a moment, just pause and think. You're either thinking about your past or you're thinking about the present, but you're building your business right now, not in the past, not in the future. The present is when you're building stuff. So action, honestly, is everything. If you are stuck here and you can't move, you're stuck in the past or the present, like, thinking is not building. And it applies even if you're not building a startup. Say if you want to land a great job with this corporation, you think about it. It's all in your head. It's not action. What have you done to act on it? Like my example of the resume. I thought and thought, and I think I became a CMO in my head. It means nothing, right? So thinking is not building. You need to act. And this is very important for building a startup. It's all about execution. And I truly believe it doesn't matter if it's a startup or it's a corporate job. It's all about execution. Execute. In startups, it's all the more important because we need to move a little fast in startups. We have to make rapid pivots. If something is not working, change direction immediately. We have to learn and unlearn about ourselves, about what we know, because the market is changing, markets are moving, business is moving, customer demand is moving. We need to move. And it all is about action. And in startups especially, we get a ton of feedback from customers, from investors, from partners, from our employees. We need to work on the feedback and move. So it's all about execution. And I really think if you think about your lives, I think it's worth thinking about how much time did I spend obsessing over this question rather than taking an action on it, right? So should I do a master's? Should I do a PhD? Or should I just take a job? Think about how much time did you spend thinking about that rather than just taking action. Reach out to people, that's action. Reach out to fellow friends, professors, get a sense of what others are doing. Does that resonate with you? So instead of taking action, we're stuck in front of our laptops, in front of our screens, or not even screens, atoms in our heads, obsessing over the question. Adopt the experimenter's mindset. I like to believe life is an experiment. Of course, that's a topic for later. But as a startup founder, everything is an experiment. I do not know which strategy will work. Just because it worked for Bill Gates doesn't mean it'll work for me. Just because Elon Musk gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning doesn't mean it'll work for me. I'll be successful if I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and start working, right? So you look at these playbooks that these entrepreneurs or these really successful people have, and people try to follow these playbooks. But the honest truth is, you are a different person. And what you do not see is the actions that person took with every setback he or she had, his or her journey. So I think what's more important is keep experimenting. Experimentation means acting, action, insight, action, insight, action, insight. You keep acting. So, and keep experimenting, keep exploring. And breaking this conventional thinking. Just because it worked for XYZ, just because the playbook says this, I have to follow this playbook. Why? Why? Ask yourself. Create your own playbook. And it starts with experimenting. So I want to ask, again, all of you these questions. I love a few volunteers. What's the one thing I have always wanted to do? Why haven't I acted upon it? And what's the one small action I can take today to make it more real? Okay.
Just to get a better sleep schedule.
I'm sorry.
To get a better sleep schedule.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So what's the one thing you can do to get better at a better sleep schedule?
Not to go out as late.
See? Can you act today on that? So if you act today, but really I think it's all about action. And it's all the more important, especially in the startup world, because with every action, your fear goes down. So in the interest of time, I'm going to just go a little fast, guys. Because I think this is a very critical topic. Entrepreneurship, be it corporate, you can't do it alone. Maybe you can, but in general, you can't do it alone. Your network is your gold mine. And this is where I want to focus a little bit upon. Networking is all about relationships. So it's very important to think about first your network in the sense that who is in my network and how strong is my network. So the way I'd like to think about network is, it's very important for all of us to map our networks. Because you think I have an amazing network, do you? Have you mapped your network? Have you thought about your network? So I'd say first thing is, it's very important to map your network. Write down who are the friends, mentors, professors, colleagues, family, investors, customers, like who make up my network. And draw a visual diagram of that. And I'll get you to a way to visually frame it. And then assess it. Assess your network. The depth, breadth, strength. Think about it. Do I have more of, if you look at your network, are there all mostly students? Or is it a combination of execs from corporate? Do I have founders? Do I have different types of people in my network? So think about the breadth of your network, the depth of expertise in your network, the strength of the connections. Do you have a network where you're giving and getting? Is it strong enough that if I call today, they will take my call and they will help me? Think about the gaps in your network, given where you aspire to be. So if I aspire to be an entrepreneur, does my network reflect where I aspire to be? Do I see a lot of aspiring founders or successful founders or founders in my network? So see whether there are gaps in your network based on where you want to be and how aligned is your network with your aspirations. So what I would say is that networking should reflect where you're going, not where you are or where you have been. So I constantly outgrow my network. In the beginning, I had network, like when I was at your age, it was more about students, of course. And then I joined the corporate ladder, and as I had an eye towards getting higher up the ladder, I made sure that senior leaders are a part of my network. And when I thought, and then I had an eye towards board roles, and an eye towards being a VC, guess what? I started building my VC network. And I wanted to be a founder, I built my founder network. So before I could even get there, I started working on my network because I saw gaps in my network. So I think the question becomes, how do you make sure your network is aligned to where you want to be? So here's a good sort of visualization. This is from a McKinsey leadership program I attended. So think of visualizing your network with you at the center and plot the people that you know really well or around you, with people that you know really well close to you. And then you thicken the lines if you trust that person and have a two-way arrow based on if you see that there's a reciprocal relationship. And then it's also a thing about energy line to see which ones are energy boosting relationships, which ones are energy draining, and then evaluate this network. One way that what you can do is even categorize people into types of people. Some people are visionary. Some people are strategic thinkers. Some are tactical thinkers. So when you start visualizing this, you might get an unlock that, you know what, I have a network full of just tactical thinkers. I need more strategic people. I need more visionary people. Or you might get an unlock that I have this amazing network, but I don't have a good relationship with any of them. As in, if I call them today, nobody will pick my phone up. So that's an insight too. So the question becomes then, now that I know my network, now that I know where I aspire to be and what my network should look like, what do I need to do? So that's a networking. Now, the common mistake I see people make in networking is that they always go into any conversation with what can I get from this person? Think about, if you guys are on LinkedIn, how many LinkedIn requests you get with people asking for stuff. And how does it feel? Right? I get so many LinkedIn requests asking for investing in startups, asking for a lot of different things. How does it feel? It feels very superficial, very transactional. The truth is that relationships grow when you give. So go with the give mentality. If I want to nurture these 5 people, and I'm not saying nurture 100 people, be very intentional in networking because your time is finite, your energy is finite. So how do I maximize my time and energy to invest, say, in one person a week, right? I'll nurture one relationship a week. But you're very mindful and intentional about who you want to nurture. And then think about, what does this person care about? What's important to them? What can I give them? Can I give them, it could be anything, a resource, just thinking about them and calling them and checking on them and how they are. So think about ways in which you can give. So the question then becomes really, who can I reach out to today and what can I give? And I'm not saying do it right now, but think about how you can start building very intentionally your network. And any questions here before I move to my last section? Yes?
I just had a question in the middle of your lecture, so I don't want to interrupt.
Yeah.
So you said execute, and I was curious to know, because there are people who invariably fail in executing on various plans, but what would be your recommendation or something that recover back from this endless failed execution? Yeah.
It's a good question. I would question you, how do you define failure?
Failure is, So my personally, it's a perennial status of not working, not being able to get a result in something, but I don't know. So I don't think failure is permanent. So I don't believe fully in failure, and that's why I'm asking this question.
Good. It's a good question you're asking. And the reason I asked the failure is that what is failure? Failure is one step closer to succeeding, right? So it's, if you don't have failure, how will you learn, right? So I feel that for me, my biggest learnings have been from what I thought were failures, which I think I'm so grateful for them. I think I'm more grateful for my setbacks and which my failures than my wins, because I learned a ton from my failures. So the question then is, how do I fail fast? So it's not about failing. And I think we have created a stigma with this term failure. Nothing is failure. It just is one step. It gets you one step closer to success. If you don't fail, how will you ever succeed? If you are never sad, how would you know happiness? It's two sides of the same coin. But it's a great question. Great question. I think just keep at it. And the last section I want to go over, and I'll quickly go over, is go slow to go fast. Really, I think what I see is that entrepreneurs are on a rush to be successful, to build successful companies. Why do they rush? Because, especially first-time founders, because you don't know much, you are afraid, you want to move fast, you want to prove yourself. But what does it lead to? When you're rushing, what does it lead to? It leads to missing things, because you are rushing, you are not even reflecting on what's working, what's not working. You're missing opportunities, you're wasting time, energy, money, you're burning yourself out. And it's not entrepreneurs. I feel that we as general, we are in such a rush to prove ourselves to the world that what, I have arrived, that you just miss things in the rush. I'd say that entrepreneurship in particular is the journey of becoming who you're meant to be. You can't rush the becoming. So let curiosity, not fear, guide you. And here are some things to start thinking about along the lines of what you can do differently as an entrepreneur. And in general, if you're not an entrepreneur also, what I would suggest is go slow in decisions, not effort. So put in your hard work, but take your time with decisions, especially in the beginning when you do not know, when you're still learning the ropes. And always start small, lead with questions, stay with the questions, talk to people, talk to your network. So finally, my closing thoughts are really to summarize, entrepreneurship isn't just about building companies. But it's about building yourself. It's who you become. So that's why these plans and all are, in some respects, the effort you put in, and effort is not futile, but these plans, the 10-year plans that you build, they at times go nowhere. It's very interesting to see them 10 years out, because you realize that the person who built the plan is very different than the person you are 10 years out. You see, you are changing as an individual, but you don't realize you're becoming more capable. You're becoming a different person. And that's what entrepreneurship is about. It's becoming the person you're meant to be. So it starts with leading with curiosity, with courage, and be willing to learn. Be willing to fail fast, but again, I don't look at failure as failure, but be willing to keep at it, keep exploring. That's all I had, but I'd love to open it up for questions. Any questions? Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. Actually, I would like to ask you, why do you work for only the female entrepreneur? Why not the both?
That's a great question. I started there. That doesn't mean, again, I do not, that's a good question, and I would, going with my principles, I'd say that I am open to it. At this point, I started with a niched market, because that's what I am. As a woman entrepreneur, I can identify with the problems of other women better. That being said, I mentor a lot of men founders as well. So you never know, there'll be a pioneer for men very soon. But yes, it's not it's not that I don't want to work with men. This is how I've started my journey.
Okay, I have another question. So now you are, as an entrepreneur, how do you maintain your work-life balance?
The reason I did, and that gets to was a great question. The reason I became an entrepreneur is that I wanted to build the life I want. In my corporate life, there was no work-life balance. Rather than, it was all work and no life, if I think about it. So for me, it was very important to build. So that's why it's not about maintaining the balance anymore. For me, that balance doesn't apply. For me, I am building the life I want, working on things that make me happy. I have not set any timelines and deadlines for myself as an entrepreneur. I'm going with the flow, trusting the process. So for me, it's about today I can put in 4 hours, great. Tomorrow I have to spend time with my family, 0 time for entrepreneurship, great. So that's how. I am not thinking about entrepreneurship as a job. It's about, it is a part of the bigger life that I am building for myself.
I apologize. I have another question, but this is the last question.
Okay.
Okay, so you emphasize on actions.
Yes.
And the last slide you said that we should slow down when we are going to take action. But why you are not saying at the first time that we should have planned action?
It's slow in decisions. So you are acting. Acting does not mean making decisions. Slow down in decisions. Say, for example, if you want to double down on your marketing and you want to explore different approaches, explore. That's action. But decisions, that the key inflection points that you make, should I hire a marketing firm? Slow down on those. So it's a fine act between decisions and actions that you are taking. But keep acting, but slow down on the decisions. Sure. Okay.
On a scale of 10, how satisfied are you with your entrepreneurship life?
10 on 10. I love it. I love it. Because I think it's because I very mindfully, I took on this journey. It's the first thing I did, I feel, in which I was wholly in, and I'm taking it slow. So I'm very satisfied. It's exactly what I wanted. Yes.
What has been one of the most exciting projects that you've worked on?
As an entrepreneur or as a corporate? As an entrepreneur. I would say, for me as an entrepreneur, as I support women founders and entrepreneurs, I think the most exciting or most fulfilling part of my job as a founder has been, there have been a couple of founders who were about to give up. So there's one founder who's building a health tech company for brain injuries, and she was about to give up because, you know what, she is invested 2 years of her time into this company, putting her heart and soul into it, and she does not see any way out. She doesn't see any takers for her product. She was about to give up, and when she joined Pioneer, stayed with us, leaning into the group, the Pioneer network. I felt that she's not alone, and she stuck with it through the lows. And today, she has 1 year into it. She now has Mayo Clinic as one of her clients, and some of the big names as her clients. So it was very rewarding for me to see her experience of sticking with, I do not know, of sticking with Pioneer and bringing herself up from the lowest of lows and being successful. So I would say that's a very rewarding one for me. Yes.
So yesterday when we were talking about like business, one of the things that we had discussed was that business is not about creating a solution, but taking on more problems for that solution. So when you were talking about your story, you said that, oh, I wanted to be a CEO, so you had 2 branching paths. Either I continue to climb the corporate ladder, or I become an entrepreneur and then go to the CEO route there. So in that like crossroads, in that mindset, when did you decide, oh, maybe building my resume is a big problem, but I can take on more problems to become that CEO? What was your thought pattern in taking on those problems? Because you're gonna either taking a short route going to where you were before in the corporate jobs. How did you justify taking on more problems to become an entrepreneur?
It's a very good question. So when I was in my corporate life, I was not, if I really deeply reflect, I was working to get a title, not to solve a world problem. That's a difference. So the reason I was unhappy in my corporate life is my goal was a title. Yes, I'm good at my job. Of course, I will solve the problems, but what was driving me was the title. It wasn't solving a problem. The entrepreneurship is different. I'm not here for the title. I'm here for a cause that is extremely meaningful to me. So even if I have no title, it's fine because I'm helping these women. That's my cause. That's my calling. So that's the difference. That's why I took this path, a path that speaks to me rather than a superficial title. Yes.
I really like what you shared about widening your network, so connecting with more people and identifying the gaps. So that means you have to connect with people you don't know, right? So
Yes.
Or like people in common can connect you to.
Yes.
So my question is, most of us here are young, and I feel like it's a little bit easier in this season to connect with people because they want to help. Because, oh yeah, I've been on your shoes and I want to help you. But how does that look like once you're like yourself, you're still years into your career and still you're connecting with people that you don't have much in common, or that like they're not really there to help you because they see themselves in you?
It's a good question. So as I said, basically for networking is all about giving, right? So it's all about connecting, finding common ground. So at my level, I think given that I have networked enough for 20 years, what I've learned is that it's very easy to connect with people. You just have to find the common ground. And that's the unlock. So when I network, I don't network with the intention of what this person will do for me. I was like, I love to know good people and help them and support them in ways I can. And what I find in few years later, they are supporters of me. They help me out because I give. So think about Pioneer. The first 6 months, it was all about giving. I did not charge anything to any of my clients. I just gave and gave. Even now, most of the time, it's all about giving without asking. And I know it will come. When I ask, it will come, and it always comes. So it's just how do you find that common ground? How do you become that person who can help them with their pain points?